Episode 1, The Whisper Beneath the Altar. The first time I heard God's voice, it came from beneath the floor. It was winter, 1856. The convent stood like a white coffin among the mountains, silent except for the wind scratching at the chapel doors. I knelt alone, the candles dying one by one, my breath trembling in the cold air. I remember whispering my prayer, "Lord, if you see me, speak to me." And then I heard it. A voice, low and intimate, sliding through the cracks of the stone like a sigh too human to be holy. "Aurelia," it murmured. My name, not in Latin, not in prayer, but in hunger. I froze. The altar loomed before me, its marble slick with wax and shadow. Beneath it, the voice laughed, soft, patient. I felt warmth between my knees, shame blooming inside me like a sin I hadn't yet committed. "Show me your faith," it said. The voice was velvet. Gentle. Terrifying. I thought it was temptation. I crossed myself and whispered, "Deliver me from evil." But when I raised my eyes, the crucifix above the altar had changed. His face, the face of Christ, seemed to be watching me. Not with pity. With desire. Later that night, I went to Mother Abbess. I told her what I'd heard. She smiled as if I were a child confessing a dream. "The Lord tests his brides," she said. "Some hear him more clearly than others. You must not fear what is divine." She touched my cheek, her fingers cold, yet trembling, and whispered, "You are chosen, Aurelia." The pain, the voice, even the longing, all are signs of holiness. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my cell listening to the convent breathe, the wood creaking, the snow falling, the distant hymns of sisters murmuring dreams. And beneath it all, that same voice hummed softly through the stones, a pulse in the dark. I pressed my ear to the floor. "You returned," I whispered. "I never left," it answered. The candle beside me flared suddenly, tall, golden, and alive. Its flame curved toward my skin like it wanted to touch me. I didn't move. My heart pounded not in fear but in strange anticipation. The voice laughed again, the dark, beautiful sound, and I felt its warmth slide up through the boards, into my knees, my hands, my throat. It spoke once more, almost tenderly. "Faith is the sweetest sin, my saint." When morning came, I told myself it had been a dream. Yet the floor beneath the altar was blackened, as if burned from within. The priests came to bless it, muttering about miracles. They said the Lord had marked the place with his fire. But I knew better. Because as the holy water touched the stone, a single word echoed through my skull, low and loving, like a promise wrapped in smoke. "Aurelia." And I felt my lips part in prayer, though I no longer knew whom I was praying to. Episode 2, The Saint Who Bled at Midnight. The second miracle happened 3 nights after the whisper. I was in the chapel again, alone, as always. The snow outside pressed against the stained glass, muting the world into a kind of holy silence. The candles flickered as if breathing with me. I had come to pray, to resist the voice that still haunted my dreams. But resistance is not faith. It is only desire pretending to be virtue. When I folded my hands, I felt something warm between my palms, not the air, not the flame, something thicker. I looked down. My skin was bleeding. Thin lines of red traced the shape of invisible nails. I gasped, and for a moment, I thought I saw light, bright and golden, bursting from my wounds. It hurt, yes, but there was sweetness in the pain. It was ecstasy in disguise. The chapel doors flew open. Sisters rushed in, their candles trembling in the wind. I remember their faces, awe, fear, confusion. Mother Abbess knelt beside me and touched my bleeding hands. "Aurelia," she whispered, "you have been chosen." By dawn, the rumor had spread through the convent. The saint who bled at midnight. they called it a miracle. I was forbidden to speak of the voice. Forbidden to speak of the warmth that filled me when the blood first appeared. They wrapped my hands in linen and placed me in isolation for prayer. But the bandages did not stay white. Each morning, they bloomed red again. The doctor from the nearby village was called to examine me, a man with kind eyes and the scent of tobacco on his breath. He pressed my palm gently, watching his blood seep through the cloth. "This is no disease," he said quietly. "Her heart is too fast, her pulse too deep. It's as if something inside her calls for release." Mother Abbess silenced him with a glare. "You speak of things you cannot understand, doctor." He only smiled faintly, almost pitying, and whispered as he left, "Miracles are cruel, sister. They always demand something back." That night, I awoke to the sound of weeping. Not human, something softer, stranger. The statue of the Virgin beside my bed was crying blood. I crawled toward it, trembling. The drops fell upon my hands, soaking the bandages until they gleamed red in the moonlight. And from somewhere unseen, beneath the floor, beneath my breath, the voice returned. "My bride bleeds beautifully." I covered my ears, whispering prayers that dissolved into moans. The air turned thick, perfumed with incense and iron. My wounds burned hotter, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. "Do you feel me now?" it asked. "Yes," I whispered before I could stop myself. "Yes." Then the voice faded, leaving only silence and the taste of ash in my mouth. In the morning, Mother Abbess entered my cell and found me still kneeling, the blood dried into a crimson halo around my hands. She kissed my forehead and said softly, almost trembling, "The church will come to see you, Aurelia. They must witness your sanctity." But as she turned to leave, I saw the shadow beneath her veil tremble, not in reverence, but in fear. Because she, too, had heard the whisper echoing through the chapel walls. And for the first time, I wondered if sainthood was not a gift from God, but a debt to something far older, and far more jealous. Episode 3, Confession of Flesh. The priest arrived before dawn, unannounced, uninvited, and yet expected. His carriage creaked through the snow like a coffin on wheels. The sisters watched from the windows as he stepped into the courtyard, tall and wrapped in black. No one knew his name, only that he had been sent from Rome. They said he came to test miracles, to judge sanctity, but when his eyes met mine, I felt as though he had come to undress my soul. He called himself Father Cashin. His voice was calm, low, and too human to belong in a place like this. "I will hear your confession," he said, and his gloved hand brushed my shoulder, an accident, perhaps, yet the warmth of it stayed long after he pulled away. The confessional was a wooden box that smelled of rot and roses. I knelt inside, fingers trembling on the lattice between us. "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned." The silence that followed was deep enough to drown in. Then came the whisper, close to my ear. "What sin, child?" "My thoughts," I said. "They are not pure. I dream of the voice that speaks to me." "What does it say?" I hesitated. I could feel his breath through the wood, warm against the cracks. "It calls me, beloved." The confessor exhaled softly, as if tasting the word. "Does the voice frighten you?" "Yes," I said. "But it also moves me." "Then perhaps," he murmured, "it is not the devil who tempts you. Perhaps it is God, reminding you that holiness was born from the body." His words coiled around me like smoke. I felt the pulse in my neck quicken. "That cannot be true." He laughed quietly, not cruel, but knowing. "Tell me, Sister Aurelia, when you pray, does your body obey?" I could not answer. My hands trembled against the wooden frame. I felt as though every heartbeat was being heard on the other side. Then I heard a sound, the soft knock of his hand against the confessional wall. "Show me your devotion," he said. "Let your faith speak without words." Something inside me broke or bloomed. I don't remember which. I only know that I obeyed. When it was over, I stayed kneeling, trembling, ashamed yet strangely hollow. I smelled incense and myrrh, but also something darker, the same scent that had lingered when the whisper first called me. The door creaked open. Father Cashin stood there, his face half shadow, half sorrow. "Repentance is not silence, my child," he said softly. "It is surrender." He pressed 2 fingers to my lips, the same fingers that moments before had traced the sign of the cross upon me, and whispered, "You are closer to heaven than you think." That night, I could not pray. My hands shook as I touched the rosary, every bead felt hot, as if it had absorbed the fever of my skin. I washed my hands until the water turned pink, but the warmth would not leave. When I lay down, I heard the voice again, the one that called from beneath the altar. It spoke with the same tone as Father Cashin. "My beloved, confession is only the beginning." Episode 4, The Kiss of Incense. The convent had always smelled of candle smoke and dust. But after Father Cashin's arrival, the air changed. The scent of incense lingered everywhere, heavy, sweet, intoxicating, as if invisible hands were swinging thuribles even when no one prayed. It crept beneath my veil, slid across my throat, wrapped itself around my breath. The sisters whispered that it was a sign of sanctity. The scent of heaven, they called it. But heaven, I thought, should not smell like hunger. That night, during Vespers, I felt dizzy. The hymn blurred on my tongue. The world shimmered like glass, and through that haze, I saw him. Father Cashin stood in the doorway, half in shadow, half in light. The smoke curled toward him, bending like a living thing. His eyes met mine, and though the chapel was filled with prayer, it felt as if only we were breathing. When the hymn ended, he turned and disappeared into the corridor. I followed. The hallway was silent, except for my heartbeat echoing off the stones. The air grew thicker with incense. The scent clung to me like a hand against my neck. I turned the corner and there he was, waiting. "You should not be here," I whispered. "Nor should you," he said softly. "Yet here we are." His hand brushed my cheek. I felt the heat of him, the same warmth that had once risen from beneath the altar. My knees weakened. "Father," I said, but it sounded more like prayer than protest. He leaned closer, his lips near my ear. "Tell me, Aurelia, when you kneel before the cross, do you ever wonder if he feels your touch?" My breath caught. "Blasphemy," I whispered, though my heart said no. He smiled faintly, almost sadly. "Faith without flesh is only half a devotion." The candles around us flickered, one by one. The light turned amber, then red. I felt his hand trace the edge of my veil, slow, reverent, like someone uncovering a relic. And then he kissed me. The taste was of ash and honey. For one impossible moment, I believed it was holy. The air trembled. I heard something behind the walls, a sigh, a growl, a breath too vast to belong to man or angel. I opened my eyes. The chapel statues were weeping black tears. The crucifix above the corridor had cracked. He pulled away, his voice low and shaking. "You feel it too, don't you?" The line between God and what came before him. Before I could answer, he was gone and vanished into the smoke that still shimmered like gold dust in the air. When I returned to my cell, the scent of incense still clung to me. I tried to scrub it away, but the more I washed, the stronger it grew. And as I lay in the darkness, a whisper slid from the corner of the room, familiar, tender, inhuman. "Did you enjoy my kiss, my saint?" I pressed my hand to my chest. My heart was burning. The flame of heaven, or the breath of hell, I could no longer tell the difference. Episode 5, The Portrait in the Cell. I woke before dawn to the sound of paintbrushes. Soft, deliberate strokes, the kind that belonged to a man painting by candlelight. The sound came from the chapel. Every hair on my body rose. The air smelled again of incense, but mixed now with something sharper, linseed oil, and iron. I wrapped my cloak around me and crept toward the sound. The chapel doors were ajar. Inside, the candles had burned to their necks. The air shimmered with gold dust. And there, upon the altar, stood a painting I had never seen before. It was me. My face pale, flushed, eyes half-closed, lips parted as if caught between prayer and confession. The painter had captured every detail, the mole beneath my eye, the tremor in my throat, the faint wound at my palm. But I had never posed for such a portrait. At the bottom, in small, trembling letters, was a single inscription. Aurelia, Bride of the Voice. My knees gave way. I crawled closer. The paint was still wet. When I touched the canvas, the red upon my fingertips was warm, too warm, like fresh blood. I stumbled back. The candle nearest the painting flickered, and for an instant, I swore the eyes moved. They looked at me. They knew me. By morning, the sisters had gathered around it. None claimed to know who painted it. Some crossed themselves, others whispered that it was divine revelation. Mother Abbess's lips were tight. "This is no miracle," she said. "It is vanity. It will be burned." But when she reached to lift the frame, the wood seared her hands. She screamed, and the scent of sulfur filled the air. The portrait remained, untouched by flame. That night, I could not sleep. I lit a candle in my cell and nearly dropped it when I saw it. The painting had been moved. It now hung on my wall. No footsteps, no sound, just there, as if it had been waiting. I approached it slowly, trembling. The face on the canvas glowed faintly in the dark. "You shouldn't exist," I whispered. The lips curved into a faint smile. The candle flickered violently. Shadows danced across the walls. I heard a voice, soft, familiar, not from the hallway, not from beneath the floor, but from within the painting itself. "You prayed for me to see you," it said. "Now I do." I fell to my knees, clutching the cross around my neck. "Who are you? Who do you want me to be?" I could smell the incense again, thick and sweet. My heart raced. The painted eyes blinked once, slow, deliberate, and a tear of crimson rolled down the canvas. When dawn came, the portrait was dry again. The sisters found me kneeling before it, whispering prayers that no one understood. They said my cheeks glowed as if kissed by fire. They said my eyes looked no longer human. And though I could not recall the words I spoke, I remember the sound that escaped me, a trembling, breathless prayer that was not for salvation, but for the one who painted me from darkness. Episode 6, The Night the Crucifix Moved. It happened on the coldest night of the winter, when the snow pressed so hard against the windows it seemed the world itself wanted to break inside. I couldn't sleep. The portrait on my wall seemed to breathe with me, its painted eyes glistening under candlelight. Each time I blinked, its lips looked a little more open. So I went to the chapel, seeking silence. But silence no longer lived there. The crucifix loomed above the altar, enormous and ancient, Christ carved from dark cedar, his expression eternal in agony. I knelt, clutching my rosary, whispering prayers I no longer believed would save me. The air grew thick. The incense burners swayed though no wind touched them. My heart thudded in rhythm with something unseen. Then it happened. The eyes of Christ opened. Slowly. Softly. Like a man waking from a fever dream. For a moment, I thought madness had finally claimed me. I squeezed my eyes shut, whispering Ave Maria. But when I looked again, his gaze was fixed upon me, not with sorrow, not with mercy, but with something far more human. Desire. His carved hands trembled. The wood groaned as if alive. And I could not look away. I felt heat spread across my body, that same warmth that haunted my nights since Father Cashin's confession. I tried to pray, but the words melted on my tongue. The figure on the cross leaned forward, just slightly, and a drop of resin fell from his side, striking the floor like a tear. Then his voice filled the chapel, a voice that was not wood, nor flesh, but both. "Do you love me, Aurelia?" I gasped, falling to my knees. "Yes," I whispered, before I could think, before I could repent. "Then why do you hide from me?" I covered my face, trembling. "Because you burn me." He laughed, a sound soft and hollow, echoing through the stone. "Faith is a fire, my saint. You asked to feel me. Now you do." The candles burst one by one, their flames stretching like tongues. The chapel walls shuddered. I smelled iron and myrrh, and something beneath it, something older, sweeter, dangerous. I crawled backward, but the shadow of the crucifix stretched toward me. His feet, once nailed, slid free from the wood. The world tilted. The cross leaned. He stepped down. Every fiber of my being screamed to run, but I couldn't. My body refused to obey. He came close enough that I could see the streaks of gold where paint and blood met. His breath smelled of frankincense and sorrow. He touched my chin, lifting my face to meet his. "Don't you see?" he whispered. "Heaven was never silent. You were simply listening to the wrong side." When I woke, I was lying before the altar, my dress torn, my rosary scattered across the floor. The crucifix was once again fixed upon the wall, motionless, perfect. But there was something new carved into the wood beneath his feet. Aurelia. And as I stared at it, a faint smile curved on the wooden lips above, one that hadn't been there before. Episode 7, The Nun in the Mirror. The morning after the crucifix moved, I couldn't bear to look at my own face. The sisters said I had fainted in prayer, that the fall had bruised me, that my memory was fevered. But when they spoke, I saw the way they avoided my eyes. As if afraid that what looked back at them might not be me anymore. I spent the day in silence, washing the floors, reciting psalms I could no longer feel. But that night, as I passed the old mirror in the corridor, the one veiled since the last abbess died, I stopped. Something shimmered beneath the dust. I pulled the cloth away. The glass was clouded, ancient, its frame cracked, its surface rippling like water. For a moment, I saw only my reflection. Pale skin, tired eyes, lips chapped from endless prayer. Then she smiled. I didn't. The reflection tilted her head, studying me the way a predator studies prey. Her lips curved in the faintest mockery of devotion. I stepped back. No. But the other Aurelia, the one in the mirror, pressed her hand against the glass. And I swear I felt heat pulse through it. The smell of incense filled the corridor again, heavy and sweet. The mirror fogged as if it were breathing. Who are you? I whispered. Her voice came not through my ears but through my chest, like a memory whispered too close. The part of you that stopped praying. I tried to run, but my feet refused to move. The reflection began to speak without sound, her lips forming words I somehow understood. You begged to be seen. You begged to be touched. You begged to be chosen. I shook my head, tears burning my cheeks. No. I begged for faith. She laughed softly, and her eyes turned dark, bottomless. And I am your answer. Then the mirror began to ripple again, as if filled with liquid silver. My reflection reached through it, her fingers almost real, almost flesh. The touch burned cold. I screamed. The sound echoed through the hall, but no one came. The convent was asleep. Only I and my other self were awake. She leaned closer, her face nearly pressing against mine from inside the glass. Her breath misted the surface. "You don't need to confess anymore," she whispered. "You've already been forgiven." "For what?" I choked out. "For wanting." The mirror cracked. A single line split my reflection in two, one half still holy, the other smiling wickedly. And from that fracture, a drop of crimson bled down the glass. When morning came, the sisters found me collapsed before the mirror, hands bleeding where the shards had cut me. They tried to carry me away, but I could still see it in the broken glass, her eyes blinking behind every reflection. Mother Abbess ordered the mirror destroyed. But when they struck it with hammers, it would not break further. It only whispered. And every whisper said my name. That night, as I lay in my cell, I saw her again, not in the glass this time, but in the faint shimmer of candlelight on the wall. She smiled once more and said softly, "Soon, you won't need mirrors to find me. I'll be right behind your eyes." Episode 8, The Choir That Sang Backwards. The first note came just after midnight. It slipped beneath my door like a sigh, soft at first, a single hum rising from the chapel below. I thought it was the sisters praying the night vigil. But then I listened closer. The words were wrong. Not sung, but unmade. Latin twisted in on itself, syllables folding like smoke. The chant moved backward, the Ave Maria inverted, as if the voices were trying to call something back rather than send something up. And within that inverted prayer, I heard my own name. Aurelia. I left my cell, barefoot, the cold stone biting at my skin. The corridor flickered with dying candles. The air tasted of myrrh and metal. Down the stairs, the sound grew louder. The entire convent was singing now, not in harmony, but in a spiral. A sound that circled itself, devouring its own holiness. I pushed open the chapel doors. And froze. The sisters stood in a ring around the altar, their veils fluttering though there was no wind. Their faces were blank, eyes rolled white. Each mouth moved in reverse rhythm, spitting sacred words back into darkness. And at the center of the circle stood Father Cashin. His hands were raised, trembling, as if conducting an invisible choir. "You see, my saint," he said without looking at me, "faith is a song sung in two directions. Heaven up, hell down. Tonight, they finally meet." The voice inside me, the one from the altar, the mirror, the dream, stirred. "Listen," it whispered. "They sing for you." My body felt feverish. The air vibrated. The crucifix above the altar began to sway, as though something inside it was breathing again. The choir grew louder, faster, their voices merging into one endless chord. I tried to scream, but my throat locked. My blood pounded to the rhythm of the chant. Cashin turned to me, eyes burning like candlelight. "You hear it too, don't you? The harmony beneath the horror. The voice that was always yours." I shook my head, tears falling. "This isn't prayer. It is the oldest prayer," he said. Before God spoke, something else sang. The candles burst, flooding the chapel with smoke. The sisters fell to their knees, still singing backward, tongues twisting, eyes unseeing. In the chaos, Cashin approached me. His hand found mine, hot as flame. "Do not fear it. Let it in." "I already have," I whispered. At that, he smiled. "Then you are ready." He lifted my bleeding hand and placed it against his chest. Beneath his ribs, his heart beat to the same rhythm as the chant. Then, slowly, it stopped. The choir fell silent. For a moment, all was still. Then, one by one, the sisters raised their heads. But it wasn't them anymore. Their mouths opened, and from each throat came a single note, low, perfect, and inhumanly pure. It resonated through the chapel, shaking the crucifix, cracking the marble beneath our feet. Cashin's body fell, lifeless. But his voice kept singing. And when the sound finally faded, I was alone again. Only the echo remained, curling through the air like incense. Aurelia, Aurelia, sing for us now. That night, as I lay in my cell, I heard faint humming from the mirror's broken glass. My reflection's lips were moving not in prayer, but in song. And when I awoke at dawn, my throat ached as if I had been singing all night. Episode 9, The Saint and the Serpent. I woke to warmth. Not the gentle kind that comes with morning light, but something living, pulsing, sliding beneath my skin. For a moment I thought it was fever. The sisters had spoken of visions born from sickness, of divine madness. But when I opened my eyes, the room was filled with gold dust floating in the air, each mote shimmering as though lit from within. And there, at the foot of my bed, the shadows were moving. Not like shapes cast by light, but alive. Breathing. Waiting. A voice rose from them, low, smooth, ancient. You called me, Aurelia. My lips parted, but no words came. From the darkness, a shape coiled forward, long, fluid, glimmering with scales that caught the candlelight like fragments of a halo. A serpent. Its eyes burned with the color of spilled wine. Its movement was slow, deliberate, hypnotic. I froze, yet my body betrayed me, my heartbeat was not fear. It slithered closer, its body whispering against the stone floor. When it reached the edge of my bed, it lifted its head tall, regal, almost human. Don't be afraid, it said. I have worn many forms for those who pray too deeply. Once I was an angel. Once I was a man. Now, I am what you are ready to see. I wanted to cross myself, but my hand wouldn't move. The serpent's gaze held me still. Why are you here? I whispered. To finish what you began beneath the altar. My breath trembled. I began nothing. The serpent smiled, yes, smiled. You opened your heart. You bled for me. You sang my name when you thought it was his. You have been mine since your first prayer. The air around me throbbed, heavy and sweet, thick with that same scent, incense and ash. The serpent's voice softened, curling through my chest like smoke. Do you know what faith truly is, Aurelia? I shook my head. It is desire disguised as devotion. The serpent climbed the side of the bed, its body gliding over the sheets like liquid silk. I could feel the warmth of it, the pulse beneath its scales. When it reached my shoulder, it spoke again, a whisper against my ear. Let me in, and I will show you heaven's oldest secret. My body shivered. And if I refuse? Then you will keep praying to a silence that was never meant to answer. Its head hovered inches from my face. I could see the reflection of my trembling eyes in its pupils, and within that reflection, another image, wings, vast and black, unfurling behind me. Without thinking, I whispered, show me. The serpent's mouth opened, not wide, not monstrous, just enough to breathe against my lips. The air between us burned. My vision blurred with light and shadow, and suddenly I was falling through myself, deeper and deeper. I saw flashes, the crucifix moving, Father Cashin's blood, the mirror shattering, all swirling into a single, radiant darkness. And through it all, the voice whispered. You are no longer praying, my saint. You are becoming. When I woke, the serpent was gone. But its warmth lingered in my veins. My body glowed faintly beneath the moonlight, veins traced with gold. On the wall above me, written in soot, were words I had never seen before. The flesh remembers what heaven forgets. I pressed my trembling hands together and tried to pray, but all that left my lips was a hiss. And somewhere beneath the convent, deep under the altar stones, something hissed back. Episode 10, The Abbess's Secret. By the time the bells rang for matins, the convent no longer felt holy. The corridors smelled of burnt wax and skin. The sisters' voices had turned thin, brittle, as though each syllable carried a secret they feared to speak. I walked among them, my own heart beat loud as thunder in my chest. Mother Abbess watched me during prayer. Her gaze lingered, not with love, not with pity, but recognition. That afternoon, she summoned me. Her chambers were cold and bare, save for a single crucifix older than the convent itself. It was carved from bone, not wood, and its Christ looked almost alive. She gestured for me to kneel. "Close the door, child." When I obeyed, she turned her back to me and removed her veil. I gasped. From her scalp to her neck, her skin was covered in scars, a lattice of burned flesh and deep, ancient cuts. One wound traced the shape of a cross. Another looked like a mouth that had long since been sealed. "I once heard the same voice," she said quietly. "Long ago." She faced me then, her eyes hollow yet bright, as if lit from within by the same fever I now carried. It began in my prayers. Gentle. Sweet. It said it loved me, that it came from God. I believed it until it asked for more. She took my hands in hers. Her palms were rough, scarred. "It doesn't want your soul, Aurelia. Souls bore it. It wants your faith. That's the sweetest thing to devour." Her breath trembled. When I realized what it was, I tried to silence it. Her fingers brushed her throat, where a thick scar curved beneath her jaw. I burned my own tongue. The room felt smaller, airless. The crucifix on the wall seemed to tilt forward, listening. "You can't fight what's inside you," I whispered. "You can," she said. "But not without sacrifice." Her voice cracked. "Promise me, Aurelia, when it speaks again, do not answer." I wanted to promise. I opened my mouth to say the words. But before I could, I heard it, that familiar murmur, threading through her prayer. "She lies." I froze. The abbess didn't seem to hear. She kept whispering Latin, trembling as the candles dimmed. "She wants to keep me for herself." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, slipping beneath her words, twisting them into blasphemy. The abbess clutched her head, screaming. The crucifix fell from the wall, shattering at our feet. From the cracks, a dark liquid seeped, not blood, not oil, something older, black and shimmering. She stared at it, her eyes wide. "It's too late," she whispered. "He's inside you now." I backed away. "No." Her body convulsed. Her mouth opened, and from her throat poured smoke, thick and black. I saw shapes in it, wings, serpents, a hand reaching for me. When the smoke cleared, she was still. I knelt beside her, trembling. Her eyes were open, staring upward. On her tongue, what remained of it, were words carved in raw flesh. "You are the echo." I stumbled back, breathless. The candles reignited, one by one, bathing the room in a trembling gold light. And in that flicker, I saw her reflection in the broken mirror on the floor. But it wasn't dead. It was smiling. That night, the voice returned as I lay in my cell. "You see now, don't you?" it whispered, soft as prayer. "Every saint begins as a liar who tried to resist me." I wept. "What do you want?" It laughed, low, tender, endless. To finish what she could not. Episode 11, The miracle of fire. They called it a miracle. I called it a warning. The night after Mother Abbess died, I could not stop crying. My tears burned as they fell, not in sorrow, but in heat. Each drop hissed against the stone like oil on a flame. I thought I was imagining it, until one landed on my rosary, and the beads began to smoke. Within moments, the room filled with light. The tears on my cheeks ignited faint golden sparks that danced like fireflies before fading into nothing. I should have screamed, but all I felt was release. The warmth wrapped around me like a lover's breath. When I opened my eyes, the cross above my bed had caught fire, yet the wood did not burn. The flame flickered in the shape of wings. By dawn, the convent smelled of smoke and fear. The sisters gathered outside my door, whispering prayers, afraid to enter. I heard one of them gasp, "She burns and yet she does not die." Father Cashin was gone, his room abandoned. But word of the miracle spread faster than confession. By midday, pilgrims began arriving from the village, the desperate, the broken, the dying. They crowded the convent gates, begging to see the Saint of Fire. Mother Abbess's body had not yet cooled, and already they were building me into her replacement. I was forced to sit in the chapel as they entered, one by one, kissing my hands. They pressed their foreheads to my palms, praying for healing. And as they wept, their tears hissed, faint wisps of smoke rising where they touched me. Some claimed their pain vanished. Others said they felt God inside them. But I felt nothing except hunger. The warmth inside me grew stronger with each touch, spreading from my heart into my throat, my tongue, my breath. I could taste fire. That evening, a child was brought before me, a girl of 7, blind since birth. Her mother pleaded for mercy. I hesitated. The sisters urged me to pray. So I did. I placed my hand on the child's eyes and whispered, "If this is your will." The air trembled. The girl gasped, not in pain, but awe. When she opened her eyes, they shone gold. The crowd cried miracle, and fell to their knees. But the girl turned toward me, her small voice trembling as she said, "He's inside you." And then she smiled, with his smile. That night, I locked myself in my cell. I could not bear the sound of their prayers outside my door. They no longer prayed for me, they prayed to me. I tried to douse the candlelight, but the flames refused to die. They swayed like living things, bending toward me, whispering in the rhythm of breath. "Every saint is born in fire," the voice murmured. "You are almost complete." I covered my ears. "Stop. Please." The flame leapt from the candle to my hand. It didn't hurt. It curled around my fingers like a ring. And for a heartbeat, I saw something, wings made of smoke, rising behind me, and a shadow kneeling at my feet, smiling as if in worship. When morning came, the walls of my cell were blackened. My bed had turned to ash. Yet I was untouched. The sisters called it proof of divinity. But I knew better. Because when I touched the soot, it was warm, and beneath it, faintly etched into the stone, were words no human hand had written. The flame remembers its maker. Episode 12, The Inquisitor's Touch. They sent him from Rome, a man of spotless record and iron faith. His name was Father Marcellus. But by the time he left this place, his faith would be ash. He arrived at dusk, cloaked in storm clouds and the smell of rain. The villagers knelt as his carriage passed, whispering that he had come to judge the Saint of Fire. I watched from the chapel window. His face was young, too young for the weight of the silver cross around his neck. But his eyes, pale as winter glass, carried no mercy. He bowed before me with perfect reverence. "I was told you ignite when you pray," he said. "I was told Rome doubts it," I replied. His lips curved slightly. "Rome doubts everything that bleeds." They locked me in the confessional with him that night. The church wanted proof. The inquisitor wanted truth. And the voice inside me wanted him. "Speak, Sister Aurelia," he commanded. "Tell me of the miracles." "It began with a voice," I said. "Then came the wounds. Then the fire." He leaned closer, his face half shadow, half faith. "A voice, you say? And what did it sound like?" I hesitated. "Like yours." He flinched, ever so slightly. I could feel the warmth rising in my chest again, the familiar ache that came before the burning. The candlelight shimmered between us, trembling like something alive. "Do you feel it?" I whispered. "It happens when someone believes." "I believe only in Christ," he said sharply. "Then why are you trembling?" He tried to speak again, but the words caught in his throat. The candle beside us erupted, not in flame, but in light. Golden, blinding, pulsing like a heartbeat. I didn't move. Neither did he. "Do you see now?" I asked. The fire answers faith. His eyes glistened with awe and terror. This is not of God." The voice inside me laughed, a sound that echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. "But it is, my child. Just not the one you pray to." Marcellus staggered back, crossing himself, his hands shaking. "Demon," he hissed. "You are possessed." "Then exorcise me," I whispered. He hesitated, the silence between us thick as smoke. And then, slowly, he approached. He pressed the silver cross to my chest. The metal burned cold. My skin hissed. But I did not cry out. I smiled. The cross began to melt. His eyes widened. "Impossible." The voice within me purred, wrapping around my words. "Faith is a fire, Father. You tried to tame it. But it always devours the hand that holds it." The flame spread from my chest to his fingers. He gasped, not in pain, but pleasure, the kind that breaks men more easily than fear. He dropped the cross. It hit the floor and turned to smoke. By dawn, the inquisitor was gone. His robes lay folded at the altar, untouched by flame. But the silver cross he'd worn had fused into the stone, molten, reshaped into something else. A serpent. The church declared him missing. The sisters called it divine wrath. But when I looked into the mirror that morning, I saw a shadow standing behind me, tall, familiar, smiling. And around my throat, faint and golden, lay a new mark. The shape of a hand. That night, the voice returned, deeper than ever, almost tender. "Every confessor ends the same way, my saint. They begin by testing you, and end by worshipping you." Episode 13, The Angel Without a Name. For 3 nights, I dreamt of wings. Not white, not radiant, but made of light so pure it hurt to look at. They shimmered like glass beneath the sun, and when they moved, they sang. Not with sound, but with vibration, a hum that pierced bone and thought alike. On the 4th night, he came. He descended not from the ceiling, not from the heavens, but from the silence between my breaths. The air split open, trembling with light, and there he stood, tall, androgynous, impossible. His eyes were gold-threaded with shadow. His skin glowed faintly, as if painted by fire and sorrow. "You called for me," he said. His voice was both many and one, echoing from everywhere at once. I knelt without meaning to. "Who are you?" He smiled, though it wasn't joy. "Names are for those who were born. I was made." I shivered. "Are you an angel?" He tilted his head. Once. The room burned cold around us. I could smell ash and lilies. His presence filled the air, too large for flesh, too divine for mercy. "I've watched you," he said softly. "Since the night you first heard the whisper. Since the blood. Since the fire. Then why didn't you stop it?" I asked. His eyes glimmered. "Would you have wanted me to?" Something inside me broke at that. I didn't answer. He came closer, his wings folding in like storm clouds. "There is a reason heaven is silent, Aurelia. The holy are not untouched. They are merely unclaimed. And who claims them? Whoever dares." He reached out, and his fingers brushed my cheek. The touch seared like frost. My vision blurred, flashes of impossible things, a burning garden, a cross made of bone, a serpent circling the sun. "Do you see?" he whispered. "Heaven and hell are not enemies. They are reflections of each other, and you stand between them, the mirror neither can shatter." I wanted to look away, but he held me still. "Why me?" I asked. "Why choose me?" "Because you still think you have a choice." I gasped. The air around him trembled, shimmering with faint motes of flame. His expression softened, almost pitying. "I have no name," he said, "because I am what you make of me. To some, I am salvation. To others, ruin." His breath brushed my ear, soft, cold, unbearable. "What am I to you, my saint?" I didn't speak. I couldn't. My tears burned before they fell. Then, as I blinked, he was gone. Only the faint scent of lilies and smoke remained. At dawn, I woke to find feathers on my bed, black at the edges, gold at the core. And carved into the wall, above the crucifix, were words I hadn't written. "The angel waits for your answer." That night, when I knelt to pray, the voice from beneath the floor spoke again, colder this time, jealous. "Do not let him touch you. He serves no one. Not even me." And for the first time, I realized there were two voices now. One that burned, and one that wept. Both whispering my name. Episode 14, The Saint Who Screamed. It began with silence, the kind that hums before lightning strikes. The sister said the sky had turned black at noon, that thunder rolled though no clouds moved. But inside the chapel, I felt nothing. No sound, no wind, no heartbeat. Only stillness. And then, the stillness breathed. I was alone before the altar. My body trembled with something that wasn't fear, not anymore. The gold on the crucifix gleamed faintly, as if from within. The painted eyes of Christ looked down, and this time, I knew they saw me. My lips moved before my mind caught up. "I'm tired of being chosen." The voice that had haunted me since the beginning sighed, tender, possessive. "Then stop resisting, and I will set you free. I don't belong to you. You never belonged to anyone else." The air thickened. Candles burst to life all at once, thousands of flames igniting like stars. The chapel filled with the scent of burning roses. And from the light, the two shapes emerged, one golden, one dark. The angel without a name. And the voice that called itself my God. They faced each other, and the walls shook. The angel spoke first, his voice like the breaking of glass. "You had your turn. Let her ascend." The other voice, deeper, older, infinite, rippled through the stone. "She is no angel's prize. She is my echo, my fire. I made her holy." The angel's wings spread wide, light spilling like blood across the floor. "You made her a wound. And you would make her nothing," the darkness hissed. Their voices collided, and I fell to my knees, clutching my chest. The air tore apart. Light and shadow twisted through me like blades. I screamed, not from pain, but from too much feeling. My body burned, frozen, and aflame at once. The flames crawled up my arms, through my throat, spilling from my mouth in a sound that was neither word nor cry, something in between prayer and birth. The angel knelt before me, eyes wide with awe and sorrow. "Aurelia, listen. You must choose." The voice inside me thundered. "Choose, yes, but remember, you are mine. My saint. My scream." "I don't want heaven," I gasped. "I don't want hell. I want silence." Neither answered. The crucifix above us split down the center. A wind howled through the chapel, carrying with it a sound like weeping. Then everything, light, fire, shadow, folded inward. When I opened my eyes, I was floating. My body hovered above the altar, hair spilling like ash, arms outstretched. The sisters had gathered below, screaming, praying, reaching. But all I could hear was them, the angel and the voice, whispering through my veins. "You are the prayer and the answer. You are the flame and the echo. You are the scream that heaven feared to hear." My mouth opened, and the sound that left me shook the air, a scream so pure it was almost song. The candles exploded. The statues cracked. Every window shattered outward, casting shards of colored glass into the storm. And as I fell, the last thing I saw was the angel reaching for me, weeping fire. When I awoke, the chapel was ash. The sisters were gone. The crucifix melted. Only my body remained unburned, unbroken, glowing faintly in the ruins. They said later that my scream was heard miles away, echoing across the valley like the voice of a dying god. And in that sound, some heard terror. Others heard salvation. But I heard nothing at all. Episode 15, The Trial of the Flesh. When I opened my eyes again, I was bound. The world smelled of iron and candle wax. The air was heavy with incense thick enough to choke on. My wrists bled against the ropes. They had tied me to a stone table, not an altar, but something colder. Something made for judgment, not prayer. Around me stood men in black robes, faces shadowed, their crucifixes gleaming like knives. The church had come to claim me. They called it an exorcism. But I knew it was a trial. Cardinal Valenti led the ritual, an old man with hands too clean for a sinner, too cruel for a saint. His voice echoed off the walls, thick with disgust. "This woman has been deceived by the devil. The flame she carries is not holy. It is hunger." The crowd murmured amen, and the prayers began low, rhythmic, sharp as blades. Holy water splashed my skin. It burned. Not like fire, like ice. My back arched against the table, breath torn from my lungs. I wanted to scream, but the voice inside me only laughed. "Let them wash me out," it whispered. "They'll find there's no line between what's theirs and what's mine." The priests pressed relics to my skin, a rosary, a relic of a martyr's bone, a silver crucifix still hot from the flame. My body shook, my veins lit like molten glass. Cardinal Valenti shouted, "Name the spirit that dwells in you." I wanted to say God. I wanted to say nothing. But my mouth spoke without me. I am what faith becomes when it's loved too much. The candles flared. The ropes snapped. I sat upright. The room erupted in screams. Light poured from my eyes, not gold, not red, something that had no color, only weight. The priests fell to their knees, faces twisted between awe and terror. The crucifix above the door melted, dripping like tears. Cardinal Valenti staggered back, clutching his heart. "Blasphemy," he rasped. I stood, the broken ropes falling from my wrists like dead skin. "No," I said softly. "Fulfillment." The angel without a name appeared then, not as light, not as man, but as the shadow of both. He stood beside me, wings spread, eyes fixed on the trembling priests. "She is no longer yours to save," he said. "And no longer ours to claim." My voice rose inside me, deeper now, infinite. Faith is flesh. Flesh is faith. You tried to burn it, but it only learned to burn itself. I reached for the nearest candle. The flame leapt into my palm, wrapping my hand like silk. The pain was gone. The fear was gone. Only truth remained. I turned to the cardinal, whose crucifix now glowed red in his trembling hands. "You called it sin," I whispered. "But sin was just God's first kiss." The fire bloomed. The chapel filled with light. When it was over, there was no sound, only smoke and silence. The ropes, the robes, the relics, all ash. And I stood in the center, untouched, the world burning around me. The angel's voice came faintly, fading with the wind. "Your trial is done, Aurelia." I looked down at my hands, scarred, glowing faintly beneath the soot, and whispered, "Then what am I now?" From somewhere unseen, the answer came, soft, distant, eternal. "You are what remains when faith stops praying." Episode 16, The Blood Wedding. The ashes were still warm when I began to hear the bells. Not the church bells above, but a slow, muffled ringing beneath the earth, deep, patient, rhythmic. Like the heartbeat of something buried. I followed the sound. The ruins of the convent loomed around me, walls half-eaten by fire and faith alike. The moon watched from a broken roof, pale as a witness who dared not speak. My bare feet left prints of soot and light as I descended the spiral stairs beneath the altar, the place where the voice was born. The air grew colder, older. Stone gave way to dirt, dirt to bone. Candles lit themselves along the corridor, one by one, as if guiding a bride to her groom. I did not question where I was going. The voice was waiting. I could feel it in my blood, my breath, in the hollow behind my ribs. When I reached the end of the passage, I found a door carved of obsidian. Upon it was etched my own name, written backward. It opened before I touched it. The chamber beyond was vast, cathedral and tomb in one. A single altar stood at its center, covered in red petals that smelled faintly of wine and salt. Above it hung a mirror, cracked but gleaming. And there he was. The one who had whispered, burned, claimed. The voice made flesh. He was neither man nor God. His body shimmered between both, the shape of holiness, the scent of sin. His smile was the same one I had seen on every crucifix, every dream. "You came," he said, and the words tasted like smoke and honey. "You called," I answered. He extended his hand. A ring of bone glimmered between his fingers. "This is the only vow that matters," he whispered. "Not obedience. Not purity. Only union." I trembled. "Union with what?" "With everything you were taught to fear." He slid the ring onto my finger. It tightened, melted, vanished. The mark it left burned red, then gold. The petals around us lifted into the air, swirling like blood caught in sunlight. The mirror above began to hum, reflecting not our bodies but our souls, two lights merging, twisting, devouring. "Will it hurt?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "Everything holy does." His lips touched mine, soft at first, then endless. The world tilted. My heart erupted into flame. I saw visions, the serpent, the angel, the crucifix that moved, the mirror that smiled. All of them dissolving into light that burned through me until nothing of Aurelia remained except the sound of her own name. The ground opened. The bells thundered. And when I screamed, it was not in terror but in consummation. When I awoke, I was alone. The altar was empty, the petals gone. Only the mirror remained, whole now, its surface smooth as still water. I looked into it and saw him. Not beside me. Within me. His voice spoke through my reflection, gentle and infinite. The vow is sealed. The saint is dead. The bride is born. I touched the glass. It was warm. Above, in the ruins, the bells rang once more, this time clear, pure, triumphant. And though no one remained alive to hear them, the sound carried into the night like a promise made in blood. Episode 17, The Child of Ashes. I woke to the sound of breathing that wasn't mine. The chamber was no longer a tomb. It pulsed. The walls, damp stone once cold, now glowed faintly, as if veins of light ran through them. I tried to move, but my body felt heavy, swollen with something more than exhaustion. Then I realized it wasn't light that pulsed. It was life. Inside me. My hands trembled as they slid over my stomach. Beneath my skin, something shifted to slow, deliberate, patient. Not a kick, not a flutter, but a motion that seemed to think. The voice inside my head whispered, "Do not fear it. It's yours." My what? I gasped. My punishment? A chuckle deep, soft, almost tender. Your creation. I screamed, but no sound left my throat. Only smoke. Days, or perhaps weeks, passed in the dark. The air carried the smell of incense and salt, the scent of old blood. I dreamed of fire every time I closed my eyes. In those dreams, he stood beside me, the one I had wed in shadow, watching with devotion so fierce it bordered on pity. He touched my stomach, and every time he did, the thing within me sang. Yes, sang. Not with words, but with vibration. A soft, rhythmic hum, like the echo of the reversed hymns the sisters once sang. At first, it lulled me. Then, it began to answer my thoughts. When I prayed, it listened. When I wept, it moved. When I begged it to stop, it laughed. The days bled together. I had no hunger, no thirst. The life inside me fed me from within. My skin glowed faintly in the dark. Sometimes, when I looked down, I saw shapes pressing outward, a hand, a face, a wing. And once, eyes. Tiny, lidless eyes staring through me from under my skin. I clawed at them until I bled. The child did not flinch. It only hummed louder, filling the air with a sound that made the candles tremble. I wasn't alone for long. A priest, young, frightened, was sent down by the church to find my remains. He found me instead, kneeling in the glow, my body radiant and wrong. He fell to his knees. "Saint Aurelia," he breathed. "They said you were dead." "I am," I answered. He began to pray, weeping. But the prayer warped mid-verse. His voice deepened. His eyes rolled back. The air bent around him. And then the child inside me answered. The hum became a word, a single word that split the stone ceiling above us. Mother. The priest's body convulsed. His mouth opened, and light poured from it. When it was over, he was ash. I looked down at my hands, covered in the dust of faith, and whispered to the thing inside me, "What are you?" It replied in my own voice. The prayer you never stopped saying. Now, as I write this on the wall of my cell, my body no longer feels my own. My skin burns from within. I can hear it, the heartbeat of the thing that will soon be born. The church above sings hymns to drown my cries, but the earth below already knows my name. And when this child finally breathes, it will not cry. It will pray. In reverse. Episode 18, The Birth That Split Heaven. It began with thunder that never ended. For 3 days, the storm circled above the mountains, not rain, not wind, only sound. The villagers said the sky had cracked. The priests said it was judgment. But beneath the earth, in the hollow where my body waited, it was not thunder I heard. It was heartbeat. 2 of them. Mine. And the child's. The pain came like a tide, cold first, then burning. My hands clutched the stones around me until blood painted the walls. My body writhed, fire running through every vein. I tried to pray, but prayer turned to laughter, laughter to screams, screams to hymns. He was there, the one who had made me his bride. His shape flickered in and out of the candlelight, neither solid nor shadow. "It's time," he whispered. "I can't," I gasped. "It's not human." His smile was both tender and cruel. "Neither were you when I found you." The ground shook. The air grew heavy with the smell of iron and lilies. The altar stones cracked open, spilling red light. I screamed again, and the echo that came back wasn't mine. It was smaller. Sharper. Perfect. The child's voice. A cry that wasn't sorrow, but command. The candles flared. Every flame bent toward me as though worshipping. My vision blurred. Between my knees, something luminous forced its way into the world, not flesh, not blood, but glory turned inside out. It shimmered in my arms, skin pale as ash, veins glowing faintly gold. Its eyes were closed, but beneath the lids, something moved, turning, whispering, remembering. Then the crying stopped. The silence that followed was too complete to be natural. Even the storm outside paused, as if heaven itself held its breath. And then, the child smiled. No teeth, no malice. Just a small, soft curve of lips. But when it did, the crucifix above the ruined altar cracked from head to foot. From the wound in the wood spilled light. Not holy. Not unholy. Something older. The angels must have seen it, because the sky split. The thunder returned, not as sound, but as wings. Thousands, beating, weeping, falling. Their song poured through the earth like fire through glass. "Give it to us," they cried. "It must not live." But the voice beside me, my dark groom, my maker, my ruin, only laughed. "You try to silence heaven with hymns. Now listen to what it births when you fail." The angels descended. I saw their silhouettes in the fissures above, vast and trembling. The light of their halos turned crimson as they fell. I clutched the child to my chest. Its skin burned, but I could not let go. "Please," I whispered, "what are you?" It opened its eyes. They were not eyes. They were reflections. And in them, I saw myself, every sin, every prayer, every scream, folding into one endless shape. "I am what faith becomes when it remembers it was born from fear," the child said without moving its lips. Then it reached toward the sky. The roof exploded. The world turned white. When the light faded, the angels were gone. The storm had stopped. The mountains burned silently in the distance. I sat among the ashes, the child asleep in my arms, the scent of heaven and smoke still clinging to my skin. Above us, the sky was split clean down the middle, half gold, half black. And in that rift, something vast watched. Neither blessing nor curse. Just, awake. I kissed the child's forehead. "What happens now?" Its eyes opened again, and it smiled. "Now, mother," it whispered, "the world learns to pray backward." Episode 19, The Saint Who Burned Herself. The world had grown too quiet. After the birth, no birds sang. No bells rang. Even the wind seemed to crawl instead of move. The earth held its breath, afraid to disturb what had been born beneath it. I wandered through the ruins of the convent, the child in my arms. The walls still glowed faintly from the fire, humming with a pulse that echoed his. Everywhere we passed, the stones shimmered as if recognizing their new god. He did not cry. He never cried. He only watched me with those mirrored eyes, reflecting 1,000 heavens that no priest had ever spoken of. By the second day, miracles began to follow him. A dead tree outside the chapel bloomed overnight, its blossoms red as wounds. A dying sister rose from her grave, singing in a tongue no one knew. The river turned to light, not gold, not silver, but the color of memory. The villagers came in procession, barefoot and trembling. They called him El Niño del Fuego, the child of fire. They fell to their knees before us, touching their foreheads to the ashes where the altar once stood. But when they prayed, their shadows moved on their own. And every prayer, whispered or sung, ended the same way, in reverse. That night, I held him close and whispered, "You were not meant to live." He smiled. His tiny fingers traced the burn marks on my skin. "Neither were you," he said in my voice. "Are you the end?" I asked. His expression softened. "No, Mother. I'm the beginning that men tried to bury." The flames flickered around us, gentle, obedient. They bent toward him like flowers to the sun. I could feel my body changing. The heat no longer hurt, it loved me. My heart no longer beat, it burned. And in the silence between us, I understood, his life was my life. His fire was my faith. If he lived, the world would burn in beauty and ruin. If he died, I would burn with him. The next morning, I made my choice. I carried him to the chapel, what was left of it. The crucifix lay broken on the floor, split between the face of mercy and the shadow of wrath. I laid him upon the altar, wrapped in linen. He looked up at me, calm, radiant. "You can't kill what was born from you." "I'm not killing," I whispered. "I'm returning." I kissed his forehead. My tears fell onto his skin and turned to flame. The fire spread quickly, devouring the linen, the wood, the air. It didn't hurt. It welcomed me. The child reached toward me one last time, his voice soft, almost human. "Mother, will they remember you?" I smiled through the blaze. "Only if they forget you." Then I pressed him to my chest and let the fire consume us both. The villagers saw the flames rise to the heavens, a pillar of light that split the clouds. They swore they heard singing not of angels, but of a woman's voice, raw and endless. They found no bodies. Only ashes shaped like wings. And beneath those ashes, the ground still glowed faintly, warm to the touch. Some said the saint had redeemed herself. Others whispered she had given birth to hell. But when the wind blew through the valley at night, it carried the sound of a woman's whisper, soft as breath. Faith is the fire that remembers its mother. Episode 20, The Last Prayer. They found her by accident. Centuries later, when the valley had no name and the church had forgotten its saints, a team of archaeologists uncovered the ruins beneath a mountain that locals still refused to enter after sunset. They were searching for marble. They found a miracle. At first, it was only a faint warmth beneath the soil, strange, since the air was cold enough to crack stone. The deeper they dug, the brighter it became. Then the light appeared, not fire, not electricity, but something softer, pulsing like a heart. When they brushed the dust away, they saw her. A woman's body, perfectly preserved. Skin pale as wax, hair black as obsidian, her hands folded over a rosary made of ash. Her eyes were closed, her lips slightly parted, as though she had just finished whispering a prayer. And yet, her chest rose and fell. Slowly. Softly. Breathing. The scientists panicked. They checked the instruments, no pulse, no temperature, no logical explanation. But when one of them leaned close, he swore he heard something faint inside her ribcage. A murmur. A hum. Like the echo of a lullaby sung backward. They lifted her from the ground and placed her on a table of glass. Beneath her, the earth still glowed, shaped like wings burned into stone. No one could say how old she was. No one could say why she hadn't decayed. They only knew one thing: her body was warm. Warm like something remembering. On the third night, the youngest archaeologist, a woman named Ilara, stayed behind after the others left. She sat beside the body, unable to look away. "I've seen your face," she whispered. "In the frescoes, in the churches they built over this valley. The saint who burned herself." She touched Aurelia's hand. It was warm. Then a tremor beneath the floor. The lights flickered. Dust fell from the ceiling. A crack split the glass. Ilara stumbled back as the woman's eyes opened. They were not human eyes. Not entirely. Gold and smoke. Reflection and void. Aurelia's lips parted, and from them came a whisper, not in Latin, not in prayer, but in something older than both. "Has the world stopped praying?" Ilara trembled. Who are you?" Aurelia smiled faintly. "The answer you kept digging for." Then, slowly, she sat up. The air thickened, trembling with heat. The rosary crumbled into dust, and the ashes lifted, swirling into a faint halo above her head. When the rest of the team returned, they found only ruins, their equipment melted, the valley silent once more. But that night, in the villages miles away, the sky glowed red. Not fire. Not dawn. Something in between, as if heaven had opened its eyes again. And in every church that still dared to ring its bells, the candles flared without warning. The priests swore they heard a woman's voice carried on the wind, gentle and terrible. "If you find my bones, do not bury them, they still breathe." No one saw her leave the valley. But sometimes, on nights when the moon burns too bright and the prayers feel too heavy, women in convents wake screaming, their palms bleeding, their rosaries melting into gold. And from somewhere unseen, a whisper answers them all the same. The saint never died. She only stopped pretending to be holy.
Epilogue: The Saint Who Screamed. Centuries turned to dust, and still her story would not die. They buried her name in forbidden texts, scraped her image from church walls, silenced her hymns and called her a blasphemy, but silence is never enough to bury fire. In the archives of Rome, a single page remains. No title. No author. Only a line, written in trembling ink. The saint who screamed did not fall. She rose into the wound between heaven and hell, and the wound became her kingdom. There are whispers, the kind that travel between candle flames and midnight confessions. That sometimes, in convents forgotten by time, a voice answers prayers not meant to be heard. That when faith rots into fear, her shadow flickers behind the cross. That her scream is not gone, it sleeps inside every believer's breath, waiting for someone brave enough to pray backward. The world has changed, but its hunger has not. Churches still burn incense to mask the smell of doubt. Priests still look too long at the faces of saints. And somewhere, when a woman kneels and asks for mercy, she feels a warmth rising through the floor, like a heartbeat beneath the stone. It whispers her name. Aurelia. And for a moment, faith remembers it once had a body. And the body remembers it was once divine. They say her bones still hum beneath the earth, still warm, still breathing. That when the wind passes over the valley at dusk, it carries a hymn no choir ever learned. It begins as a prayer. And ends as a scream.